Hello, CoachCrate family. Welcome to another self-discovery video. In this video, we are talking about manipulation, and I'm really excited about this video, even though it's a kind of intense topic, because this little sneaky stinker sneaks its way into our lives in ways that we don't even know. That was a full-on almost tongue twister that I did, and I think that was the first time I tried that, and I got it right. So it's gonna be a good video. Let's jump right in. So manipulation, this gets brought up in our Enneagram empowerment book, but I wanted to take a specific deeper look into this because as I mentioned earlier on in the tongue twister, it really can show up in our lives in weird ways that we don't realize either A, we're being manipulated, or B, we are manipulating others. And if even the word manipulation gives you makes you feel tense and like, no, I don't do that. I could never do that. I don't manipulate. I want to loosen up our shoulders, do this with me or I'll do it by myself, that's okay. And really take some of the heat out of that manipulation work because I feel like it packs so much heaviness of like nobody wants to be like, oh yeah, like I manipulate, like I'm a manipulator, yeah, that's me. Nobody wants to identify themselves as this. So I want to take some of the heat out of that and give you the safe space to actually discover and uncover this area about yourself. And especially in the area of, oh, that's manipulation. Yep, I've been doing that and had no idea. It can be a very, very powerful way to change your relationships and also make you actually feel more empowered. For me personally, there were a few ways that I was manipulating people that I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing. And again, it puts that like, ugh, in my stomach because I don't even want to acknowledge that. I don't want to even admit that because that's not how I want to identify myself as a person. That's not how I want to be seen or doesn't align with what I want to be. But as we talked about in the taking ownership video, once we can identify these qualities, especially when they're sneaky and we feel like it's coming from a place of love or good intention, when we identify it, we can do something about it. So here are a few ways that we're actually manipulating when it might not feel like we are. First one is passive aggressive behavior. This is a form of manipulation because you're not being clear and direct with actually what you're trying to communicate. You are expecting and relying people to pick up on cues and messages that almost come in like a cryptic code. So something like, no, that's fine. I wanted to do the laundry all myself anyways. Or something like that, that if we took that as you're saying it, that you wanted to do the laundry, then that would be a really clear thing to understand, right? But when we have that passive aggressiveness behind it, it doesn't clearly communicate what's going on and it's trying to elicit a response or a reaction out of the other person that is your responsibility to give. If you didn't want to do the laundry, it's your responsibility to say, actually, you know, by you not doing the laundry, that really upset me because I didn't want to do your laundry this week. That's your responsibility to communicate that stuff. I know, right? Ugh, just hang in there with me. Another way we can manipulate is by withholding information, and this includes giving vague answers. And we might do this with the intention of trying to protect somebody else. Oh, like who'd you have lunch with? Oh, just a friend from college, you know, when in reality it was an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. And it's hard because it might not feel like we're manipulating. It is because we are controlling the amount of information that they have, usually based on what we want them to think, which is manipulation. And again, there might not be negative intentions with this. As I said at the beginning of the video, sometimes we can be trying to protect or trying to smooth over conflict, or even just we don't think it's a big deal and we know nothing happened at lunch, so we'd rather just avoid a fight than have a fight, have somebody be upset and misunderstand and all of those things, right? We might not have negative or malicious intentions. However, it's still manipulation. And we want to just take ownership and see it for what it is, because when we're manipulating, we're not coming from our most empowered spot and we're not allowing others to come from their most empowered spot. And that's really important. So be aware of like the vague answers, the withholding information, even if it's coming from good intentions. Another form of manipulation is agreeing to something even when it's not actually how you feel or what you want. And you're like, what? How is this manipulation? That's just me just trying to be a good sport. This is just me trying to, I know, I'm with you. These are the tricky pickles because it doesn't feel like it's a mean or a bad thing. However, it's not the truth. It's not actually how you're feeling. And even if we're doing this just to make somebody else feel better, to make the situation go smooth, or whatever the case might be, it's us not being true to make something happen, right? It's us changing our reality, even if it's just our inner reality, in order to make the other person feel, think, respond a certain way. There is a very big difference between being easygoing and going with the flow versus agreeing and going with it to control how other people are responding or feeling. If you really don't care and you're like, yeah, pizza's not my favorite thing, but like, I'll eat it. It doesn't really bother me. It's very, very different than, okay, well, I don't like pizza, but I want them to like me, so I'm going to say that I really like pizza, right? Manipulation. You want them to feel a certain way, so you're going to change and manipulate something in order for that to be true. The next one is white lies. And of course, there's lots of a variety of opinion on when white lies are okay, if they are okay. And I will leave that to you in your own decision, but it is important for us to recognize that those white lies are a form of manipulation. Even if it's coming from a good intention, even if it's coming from, no, that lasagna wasn't bad at all, or whatever it might be, still have to see it for what it actually is. The next sneaky manipulation thing we have is when we give to others only out of anticipation of needing something from them in return. And I think that one is easier to see how it's manipulation, because obviously it's not just full giving. It's saying it's strings attached giving. It's saying, I'm going to do this because I think I might need something from you in the future, which unless you have a clear understanding of their contract, or it's been verbally expressed, hey, yeah, I will take your dog out if you can water my plants when I'm gone. Something like that, right? Very, very different. Something very established. Otherwise, it's that I'm hanging something over your head because I've done something for you and now you owe me. And the final sneaky manipulation we have for this video kind of pairs with one that we've already talked about, which is doing things that are not true to yourself in order to be liked. This includes putting other people's well-being and health above your own in order to be loved, accepted, approved of, all of that stuff. Trying to get that approval. And as we talked about before, that is changing the reality, changing what you need, and putting your efforts and energy on trying to control people's responses or feelings or opinions about you. Taking something that's not true so that people feel a certain way, which is manipulation. And again, we can do this with the best of intentions, but we still want to call it out for what it is. So after having gone through all of this, hopefully you've made it with me this far, because it's a really important piece to talk about, is that of course there are different layers and levels of all of this. If you're a parent, you're going to need to put your children's well-being above your own to some extent, because you are raising two human beings. However, that's very different than being in a relationship and feeling like you have to cook, clean, fix the car, mow the grass, do all of those things in order to be liked by that person. Obviously, they might like that you do that. That might be a bonus. Same thing with when we mentioned earlier, there's a difference of setting boundaries of, we're not going to talk about politics at the dinner table versus giving vague answers and withholding information. And that's something that you have to continue to explore and learn. If this feels heavy to you, first of all, do the shoulder thing again, like we did at the beginning. Loosen this up a little bit, because we didn't cover this to say you're a bad person, you're doing awful things. No, we're uncovering these little tiny behaviors and actions that we sometimes fall into patterns and habits of, because, oh, I don't know, like everyone wants love and we want to feel accepted and we want to feel like we have control because life is hard and scary. So we'll do these really weird things sometimes to try to get both, to try to feel safe and have control, and also to get love and feel accepted. And the powerful thing, the empowerment part of all of this, comes by realizing that we don't need to manipulate in order to get those things. And that it actually takes your power and other people's power away by doing that. And it's a vulnerable thing to talk about this stuff. And it's hard. So I really appreciate you sticking with me this long in this video because I know it's not comfortable. It wasn't comfortable for me when I realized, oh, these are sneaky little pickles of things that I didn't even know that I was doing that don't align with how I want to be or who I want to be as a person. And also, as we've talked about in the taking ownership video, they have deeper roots. We can start to understand, well, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to control this situation? Start to pay attention. Even you can mark this down on your journal of when you do these things and the reason why. What are you trying to go for? What are you trying to control or change? And this is when, again, it's really important to remember it is not our job to manage, to feel, to control other people's emotions, choices, actions, feelings. Once we understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, that's when we can look back into ourselves and make changes there first. If you find that you're in a relationship where you are using a lot of manipulation, whether that is a parent relationship or a significant other or a peer relationship, whatever that might be, but if you find that you have a relationship where you are manipulating a lot, we can make that relationship stronger by working on this stuff. Or in some cases, realize that that relationship isn't serving us in life. We have to do so much work to change who we are to be accepted. There are lots of people who will accept you for who you are without having to manipulate who you are or lie about who you are in order for that to happen. So keep track of when you're doing this throughout your life, the reasons behind. Go back to the taking ownership video if you need to watch it again, if this is hard for you to take ownership of. And again, we're not defining you. You are not a manipulator. It's these patterns and habits that we've fallen into because we're trying to get something. And with that, hopefully you can have love and compassion for yourself. Oh, that's why I was doing that, because of XYZ. That makes sense. Of course, you felt scared or safe. Well, there are better ways to handle that. So from now on, rather than withholding information to try to protect that other person, I'm going to establish better lines of communication and work on being able to handle conflict that might arise. I know that this is really big, heavy stuff. So please let me know if you have any questions on this. And just the big final reminder is that we are lifting the weight off of your shoulder. We are not trying to put it back on. And I'm sure to some extent we all do a little bit of this, but if you find that you are more on the receiving end of these things, this is when it takes that extra effort and work to communicate, to set boundaries, and sometimes it means changing relationships if people aren't respecting you. I'm so proud of you for doing this work. Thank you for hanging in through this heavy video with me, and I will see you very soon in another video.